Welcome to Bedtime Astronomy. Explore the wonders of the cosmos with our soothing bedtime astronomy podcast. Each episode offers a gentle journey through the stars, planets, and beyond, perfect for unwinding after a long day. Let's travel through the mysteries of the universe as you drift off into a peaceful slumber under the night sky.
Are we alone? I mean, it's the ultimate cosmic question, isn't it? It really drives so much of our science, our speculation.
It absolutely does. And for generations of this search for extraterrestrial technological civilizations, ETCs as we call them, it's been fueled by this image of finding something huge.
Right, like beings way, way beyond us, cosmic architects maybe, galactic empires wielding, unimaginable power, that kind of thing.
Exactly. That's been the dream. Yet, despite all our efforts, better telescopes, more sensitive searches, the universe is just quiet, very quiet.
And that quiet isn't just a letdown, it's a genuine scientific puzzle, a big one.
It truly is one of the most perplexing, really.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing this deep dive today. We've got some fascinating sources suggesting a really different take. Almost simple.
A radical idea in its own way.
Totally. We're going to unpack this concept called radical mundanity, the core idea. Maybe the reason we haven't found aliens isn't because they're super rare or hiding, but because they're just, ordinary.
Yeah.
Too mundane for us to notice easily.
And we're digging into the work of Dr. Robin Corbet here. His research, it was published on the ArcSUF preprint server, offers this theoretical framework.
Okay.
He basically investigates the chances of finding ETCs if we assume this mundanity idea is correct. And it's vital research because it challenges that whole super science bias in SETI.
Right. It might change what we should even be looking for.
Exactly. And why we're hearing this cosmic silence.
So it all comes back to that famous question from Dr. Enrico Fermi way back in 1950, the one we still can't answer. Where is everybody?
That question just cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it? The Fermi paradox.
It really does.
And the paradox itself, it's the stark clash between what we expect and what we actually see, or rather what we don't see.
The expectation comes from the sheer numbers, right? Billions of galaxies, billions of stars in each.
Hundreds of billions, yeah. And we now know planets are everywhere. Almost every star seems to have them, and loads are in that Goldilocks zone, the habitable zone.
So statistically, even if life is incredibly rare, multiply that tiny chance by the gazillions of planets out there.
You should get a galaxy buzzing with life. And a lot of it should be intelligent, technological, given the billions of years the universe has been around.
Plenty of time for civilizations to pop up, grow, maybe even spread out. We should see signs somewhere.
That's the expectation. But the observation, still zero. Absolutely no definitive proof, no giant alien constructions, no obvious signals, no, take me to your leader moments.
Nothing.
It's this gap, the high probability versus the stark, quiet reality that pushes fields like astrobiology, SETI, exoplanet science forward. We have to figure out why our assumptions don't match what we're seeing.
If that assumption of, cosmic grandeur keeps getting shot down, then something fundamental in our thinking must be off.
And for decades, the answers people came up with for the Fermi paradox tended towards, the sources call them extreme scenarios.
Okay, yeah, let's touch on those briefly because this new idea is supposed to replace them, right?
Exactly. So the first big category is that life is just rare or it destroys itself. This often involves the idea of the great filter.
The great filter. Like some massive hurdle that's almost impossible for life to get past.
Right. And maybe that filter is behind us. Maybe just getting life started from non-life or jumping from single cells to complex creatures like us. Maybe that was the incredibly rare event. If so, hey, maybe we're first or one of the very few.
That's the optimistic view, sort of.
Yeah.
But the filter could be ahead of us too, right?
That's the more chilling possibility. Maybe civilizations inevitably hit a wall. Runaway climate change, nuclear war, maybe some kind of out-of-control AI.
They just snuff themselves out before they can really go interstellar.
Pretty much. In that case, advanced civilizations might exist, but they're either incredibly rare or they just don't last very long on a cosmic timescale.
Okay, so that's one set of ideas. What else?
Then you've got explanations where life is common, but they have reasons to stay quiet. The famous one is the dark forest hypothesis.
Yeah, from science fiction. But scientists discuss it seriously, the idea that the universe is dangerous.
Exactly. If resources are limited, announcing your existence could paint a target on your back. Any new kid on the block might be seen as a threat by older, more established civilizations.
So they practice extreme radio silence, stay hidden to survive.
Right. Which implies they also have the tech to detect others who aren't being quiet and maybe silence them. It suggests a pretty predatory cosmos.
Yikes. Okay, and the last classic one.
The zoo hypothesis. This one's a bit more benign, but still requires immense technological superiority.
They know we're here, but they're just watching, like we're at a cosmic nature preserve.
Sort of, yeah. They deliberately avoid contact, maybe following some kind of prime directive not to interfere with our development.
But again, that implies they're so advanced they can enforce this across huge distances. They're essentially galactic zookeepers.
That's the key point. All these traditional explanations, they rely on extremes. Extreme rarity because of a filter, extreme silence because of danger, extreme power to run a zoo.
They all assume that if a civilization survives past our stage, it becomes some kind of cosmic powerhouse. A super science society, as you said.
Precisely. But what if that core assumption is wrong? What if the choice isn't just between cosmic gods and total emptiness?
What if most advanced life is? Well, just a bit more advanced than us. Not godlike at all.
That's the door radical mundanity opens. But first, we need a way to measure advancement, right?
Yeah.
A scale.
Right. Which brings us to Kardashev.
Exactly. To get away from just philosophical hand-waving and talk about physics, energy, Dr. Corbet's study uses the Kardashev scale. It's a classic model from a Soviet astronomer, Nikolai Kardashev.
And it basically ranks civilizations by how much energy they can use, right? That's the benchmark.
That's it, purely based on power consumption, which is a fundamental constraint. And it's a logarithmic scale, remember?
Meaning the jumps between levels are enormous. Not just a little bit more power, but orders of magnitude more.
Astronomical leaps. So let's start at the bottom rung. Type I civilization. This is a civilization that controls all the energy available on its home planet.
So we're talking weather control, tapping all geothermal, wind, solar, maybe advanced fusion power. Basically managing the entire planet's energy budget.
Total planetary energy management, yeah. Something like 10 to the 16 watts. Humanity, for context, is still climbing towards that. Carl Sagan estimated us around 0.7, maybe 0.73 now. We're not quite there yet.
Okay, so type I is planetary mastery. What's type 2?
Type 2 civilization. Now, you take a colossal jump. This civilization harnesses the total energy output of its host star.
Its entire star, like our sun.
Yep. For a star like our sun, that's about 10 to the 26 watts. That's 10 billion times more energy than a Type I civilization uses. This is where you get into proper super science.
And the classic image here is the Dyson sphere, or maybe a Dyson swarm. These massive structures built around the star to capture all its light and heat.
That's the theoretical mechanism, yes.
Yeah.
Building something on that scale. It boggles the mind. Structures bigger than planets, completely enclosing a star.
And the crucial point for detection is they couldn't hide this, could they? Even if they wanted to.
That's the argument. Physics demands that energy conversion creates waste heat. Thermodynamics. Even a super efficient Type 2 civilization capturing nearly all its star's light
would still radiate heat. Waste heat.
Exactly. So instead of seeing a normal star, we'd see something dimmer in visible light, but with this huge, unnatural spike in the infrared spectrum.
Like a giant heat signature where a star should be.
Yeah.
Something that screams artificial.
Unmistakably artificial. A massive blob of mid-infrared radiation. If even one Type 2 civilization existed in our galaxy and had been around for a while.
We should have spotted that heat signature with our infrared surveys like WISE or Spitzer.
We should have. The fact that we've found basically no really convincing candidates for these megastructures, that is the Fermi paradox in action. It deepens the mystery.
Okay, so Type 2 is stellar mastery. And then there's Type 3.
Type 3 civilization. This is almost abstract. They harness the energy of their entire home galaxy.
The whole galaxy.
Yeah.
Billions of stars.
Billions of stars. Galactic overlords, essentially. If a Type 3 existed, it wouldn't just be detectable. The entire galaxy would look fundamentally different, clearly managed or engineered.
And our galaxy doesn't look like that at all.
Not even close. So the clear absence of Type 2 and Type 3 civilizations is what really forces this rethink. If the super powerful aliens aren't there, what's left?
Which brings us back to this idea, mundanity.
Right. If the extremes, extreme rarity or extreme power don't fit the observations, maybe we've been aiming too high, overestimating the technological ceiling for most life.
Okay, let's really unpack this radical mundanity that Dr. Corbet proposes. This is where it gets really interesting, kind of flips the script.
The basic idea is surprisingly simple. Maybe the silence is explained if the galaxy just contains a modest number of technological civilizations. And crucially, their technology level is only modestly higher than ours.
Not type 2 or 3, maybe type 1 or just a bit past it, like type 1.1.
Exactly. Their technological ceiling is just lower than we've often assumed. They never reach the star harnessing stage.
And Corbet breaks this mundanity down into two parts, right? Two dimensions.
Yes. Two key aspects working together. First is technological mundanity. This is about the physical and practical limits.
So maybe ETCs just don't make the breakthroughs needed for type 2. Or maybe it's just too expensive or resource intensive.
Precisely. Think about building a Dyson sphere. The sheer amount of material, the energy investment, the logistical nightmare. Maybe it's just fundamentally beyond the reach of a civilization confined to its home planet's resources, no matter how smart they are.
So achieving type I, planetary mastery, that's achievable. It solves local problems, ensures sustainability on their world.
Right. They survive, they thrive perhaps, become stable. But that leap from managing a planet's energy to managing a star's energy, maybe that gap is just too vast.
Kind of technological cul-de-sac around type I.
That's a good way to put it. Maybe there are fundamental physics limitations or material science barriers, or simply the economics are astronomical and make it unfeasible. Stellar engineering stays science fiction for them.
So their tech would be recognizable to us, in principle. Clean fusion, maybe efficient interplanetary travel within their own system, advanced computing, but still planetary in scale.
Exactly. Still bound by the resources and energy available on one world. And the second dimension is numerical mundanity.
This is about how many there are.
Right. The hypothesis suggests there just aren't that many ETCs out there. Not millions densely packed, but also not zero. Just a modest number.
A handful. Dozens, maybe. Scattered across the huge expanse of the galaxy.
Something like that. Enough to exist, but few enough and far enough apart that the chances of us stumbling across them or them finding us become pretty low.
Especially if they're not building giant, flashy megastructures or shouting with powerful beacons.
That's the key connection. If they're only modestly advanced and modestly numerous, we're not looking for cosmic gods beaming signals across thousands of light years. We're looking for, effectively, Type I planetary engineers quietly managing their infrastructure.
It changes the whole search paradigm.
Completely. The contrast is stark. We've been searching for galactic-scale disruption, signs of superscience. Radical mundanity says we should be looking for quiet competence.
Civilizations that are successful, stable, but ultimately limited by the physics of distance and energy on a galactic scale.
They just don't have the capability or perhaps the motivation to make a huge cosmic splash.
Okay, so if we accept this premise, modestly advanced, modestly numerous to the rough, what does that actually mean for their ability to, say, explore the galaxy or for us to detect them? It implies constraints.
Absolutely. If they're mundane, they're still fundamentally bound by physics and resource limitations, much like us. Their ability to act on a galactic scale is severely curtailed by their Type I, maybe Type 1.1 energy budget.
And these constraints are the reason for the silence.
Precisely. A civilization that hasn't cracked stellar-level energy can't easily conquer or communicate across the vast interstellar voids.
Let's break down those constraints. Corbet talks about constraint 1, galactic conquest via robotics. Even if they wanted to expand, maybe for science or survival.
The sheer scale of the galaxy is a killer app, basically. Even for a civilization a bit ahead of us, say Type 1.1 or 1.2.
Sending probes out. Like von Neumann probes that replicate themselves?
That's often proposed as a solution to the Fermi paradox. Why haven't self-replicating probes filled the galaxy? But launching and sustaining such a program requires unbelievable amounts of energy and resources far beyond a planetary budget.
Think about our own Voyager probes. Huge effort. Decades later, they barely left the solar system in galactic terms.
Exactly. And we talk about maybe sending a probe to Alpha Centauri, just over 4 light years away, and the engineering challenges are already immense. The energy costs are huge.
Now scale that up, trying to explore thousands, maybe millions of star systems with robotic probes.
The cumulative energy needed to build them, launch them, accelerate them to reasonable speeds, maybe decelerate them, ensure they work for centuries or millennia. It just likely exceeds the energy income of a planet-bound civilization.
So the sheer vastness of space remains a fundamental barrier. Interstellar travel is hard, even for them.
It seems plausible, yes. The logistics, the energy cost, it acts like a natural brake on galactic expansion for any civilization that hasn't achieved Type 2 power levels.
Okay, so widespread physical travel or colonization is probably out for mundane civilizations. What about communication? That brings us to constraint 2, high-powered beacons.
Yeah, this is a big one for SETI. For decades, the hope was we'd detect a deliberate, powerful signal. A beacon.
Something designed to be noticed across the galaxy, shouting, "We are here!" Like the wow signal, maybe, though that wasn't confirmed.
Right. But think about the energy needed to run such a beacon, to make it powerful enough to cross hundreds or thousands of light years and still be detectable above the background noise.
You have to keep it running for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Millennia, millions of years. You don't know when someone might be listening.
Exactly. The total energy expenditure would be astronomical. We're talking about potentially diverting a significant fraction of a Type I civilization's entire energy budget just to maintain this speculative shout into the void.
Would a mundane civilization see that as a sensible use of resources?
Probably not, it seems. Inefficient. Wasteful, even. They'd likely have very efficient communication within their own solar system-focused laser beams, maybe tight microwave links, perhaps even quantum communication if they've cracked that.
Stuff that doesn't spray energy wastefully across the galaxy.
Exactly. So the lack of obvious powerful beacons isn't necessarily proof no one's out there. It might just be a sign of their mundanity, their practicality. They don't have the energy to spare for galactic vanity projects.
Okay, so if they're not physically exploring widely, and they're not shouting with powerful beacons, how could we possibly detect them? That leads to constraint 3, weak technosignatures.
This is really the crux of it for future searches. If mundane ETCs exist, the only signs we're likely to detect are their unintentional signals, their leakage radiation.
Like the accidental electromagnetic noise from their technologies leaking out into space?
Precisely. The hum of their civilization. Their equivalent of our old TV broadcasts, radar signals, maybe planetary defense grids, power transmission, whatever EM noise their daily lives generate that isn't perfectly contained.
But you mentioned earlier, even our leakage is getting weaker, isn't it, as technology gets more efficient?
It is, and that's a critical point in Corbet's argument. Our early radio and TV was broadcast omnidirectionally. Very leaky, relatively strong signals. But now we use fiber optics, which keeps the signal contained. We use focused satellite beams, low power. We're moving to spread spectrum techniques, laser comms.
All much harder to detect from light years away.
Much harder. So an ETC that's even just, say, a century or two ahead of us technologically, they've likely already transitioned to these highly efficient, very low leakage methods.
They'd manage their data with incredible sophistication, maybe using technologies we haven't even thought of yet. But the result is less accidental noise escaping.
Almost certainly. Their whisper would be incredibly faint by the time it crossed interstellar distances to reach us.
So detecting that faint leakage, that's a whole different ballgame compared to searching for a beacon.
Hugely different. It needs incredibly sensitive instruments, massive collecting areas, sophisticated signal processing to dig that tiny artificial noise out from the natural cosmic static. And you need to stare at individual star systems for a long time.
So the silence we hear now might not be an empty universe.
Yeah.
It might just be the sound of our own current technological limitations. We can't hear the whispers yet.
That's the essence of the radical mundanity explanation for the silence. It's a problem of signal strength and detection threshold, not necessarily absence.
Okay, so Corbet took this principle, these constraints, and used them to test the different possibilities for what the galaxy might actually look like.
Right. He set up a kind of logical framework based on those two variables, number of civilizations, many or few, and their tech level high, type 3, or mundane, type I-ish. That gives 4 possible scenarios.
And by applying the constraints, no obvious megastructures, the difficulty of beacons, the faintness of leakage, he could basically rule out 3 of them.
Exactly. Let's walk through the eliminations. The first 2 are fairly straightforward, based on the lack of superscience evidence.
Right.
Hypothesis 1. Many civilizations, AMD, very high technological level. False. If there were many type 2 or 3 civilizations, the galaxy would be obviously teeming with astroengineering projects and their heat signatures. It isn't.
Simple enough. What's next?
Hypothesis 2. Very few civilizations, A and D, very high technological level, also seems false. Even just 1 or 2 type 2 civilizations, if they've been around for millions of years, should have had enough time and power to become detectable. Their waste heat, maybe probes, something should be visible somewhere. The silence argues against this too.
Right. No super civilizations, whether common or rare, so the answer must lie with mundane technology. But there are 2 options there.
Now it gets interesting. Hypothesis 3, many civilizations, A and D, mundane technological level. Corbet argues this one is also likely false.
Wait, why? If they're mundane, they're quiet. But if there are lots of them, wouldn't the combined whispers add up? Wouldn't we eventually detect something just by sheer numbers?
That's the critical point. If there were truly many, maybe thousands or millions scattered through the galaxy. Even if each one only leaks a tiny bit of radiation, the cumulative effect becomes significant. Statistically, some should be relatively close by.
Close enough for even their faint leakage to be detectable with our current or near future capabilities.
Plausibly, yes. Over the decades, SETI has been active. If the galaxy was densely populated with Type I civilizations, we probably should have picked up some persistent, structured, artificial-looking noise by now, even if it was weak. The profound lack of such signals suggests the population density isn't that high.
So the silence is just because they're individually quiet. It's also because there aren't that many of them overall.
That's the inference. The lack of any compelling signal, beacon, or leakage forces us away from the many mundane scenario.
Which leaves only one possibility standing in this framework.
The last one. The conclusion that seems to best fit the observed silence, if you accept the premise of mundanity, is very few civilizations with mundane technological level.
Wow, okay, so that's the synthesis of radical mundanity. Not empty, not teeming with gods, but sparsely populated with civilizations kind of like us, just maybe a bit further down the road.
Exactly. A modest number, scattered across the vastness. They're successful. They made it past whatever filters lead to technology, but they are fundamentally constrained by planetary resources and energy. They're not cosmic architects. They're Type I, maybe Type 1.1 engineers, grappling with the same issues of interstellar distance and energy costs that we are.
And that explains the silence. They lack the sheer power to make obvious signals or structures, and there aren't enough of them for their combined faint leakage to be easily detectable by us yet.
It resolves the Fermi paradox quite elegantly, really, without needing galaxy-wide catastrophes or hidden watchers. It's an explanation rooted in plausible physical and economic limits.
And the big takeaway, maybe the most important part, is that it doesn't mean we're alone.
Not at all. It actually makes detection seem, well, not imminent, but potentially achievable. It's just incredibly difficult. We're not looking for a foghorn. We're listening for a pin drop miles away in a noisy room.
The neighbors are home. They're just not having a loud party. They're quietly managing their household.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
So this shift in perspective that Dr. Corbet offers is pretty fundamental. It suggests the reason for the paradox isn't some grand, terrifying cosmic drama, but maybe just a lack of cosmic extravagance.
Exactly. The universe might be less like Star Wars, with galaxy-spanning empires and more. Well, just big and mostly empty, with occasional pockets of quiet, competent, planet-bound life. Less terrifying, perhaps, but maybe more constrained.
And if this whole radical mundanity idea is on the right track, it has huge implications for how we actually do SETI, right? How we search.
Absolutely massive implications. It means we should probably deprioritize searching for those super powerful, obvious beacons or giant Dyson sphere heat signatures. They might simply not exist in large numbers, if at all.
Instead, the focus has to shift entirely to detecting that faint incidental leakage radiation.
That becomes the prime target. The search needs to become more surgical, more patient. We need extreme sensitivity and the ability to filter out natural noise sources very effectively.
And Corbet's study actually suggests this might be within reach, historically speaking.
It does offer that optimistic note. For perhaps the first time, he argues, detecting this faint leakage might not be centuries away, but it requires the next generation of instruments.
He mentions the Square Kilometer Array, SKA, specifically, right? That huge radio telescope project being built now?
Yes, the SKA, or potentially the generation of telescopes that comes after it.
Why is the SKA so suited for this mundane search?
Because its design goals are exactly what's needed. It's aiming to be the most sensitive radio telescope ever constructed, with an enormous collecting area spread over huge distances.
So it can pick up incredibly faint signals.
That's the plan. Its sensitivity and processing power are being optimized precisely to pull weak structured signals, like leakage radiation could be out of the cosmic background noise, even from significant distances.
It's not looking for the shout. It's listening for the whisper.
Perfectly put. The SKA is the kind of tool you'd build if you believed the radical mundanity hypothesis was correct. It matches the target. If those quiet Type I civilizations are out there, the SKA or its successors represent our best chance yet of finally hearing their faint planetary hum.
So the search gets harder, in a way, needing more sensitivity, more patience, maybe more clever signal analysis, but the target itself feels more realistic, grounded in physics we actually understand.
I think that's fair to say. We just need to build much better ears and point them very carefully at the quietest places.
Okay, that leads us perfectly into a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. building directly from this idea of mundanity.
If Corbet is right and radical mundanity holds true, if most ETCs really do seem to stall out technologically around the Type I level, what does that imply?
It suggests a kind of universal speed limit on technological growth, doesn't it?
It could. Does it mean that the real great filter isn't about getting life started or surviving nuclear war, but it's actually the monumental challenge of making that leap from planetary energy mastery Type 1 to stellar energy mastery Type 2?
Is the silence simply because that jump is fundamentally too hard or too expensive or maybe just physically impossible for any civilization confined to a planet? Is that the barrier no one or almost no one crosses?
It's a fascinating possibility. Maybe the silence isn't philosophical. Maybe it's just engineering and economics on a cosmic scale.
So the provocative question for you is, if there's this potential technological ceiling around Type I, what does that mean for us? What does our own ceiling look like? Are we already bumping up against the point where the energy and resource costs of our next big leaps, true interplanetary infrastructure, interstellar probes, start to become fundamentally prohibitive for a planet-bound species?
Yeah.
Are we closer to our mundane limit than we think? Something to ponder.